The loud beeping of machines filled the prestigious hospital room, where a middle-aged man lay nearly lifeless on the bed. The monitors attached to him were screaming alarms. His heart rate was dropping dangerously low, and his blood pressure was through the roof. Despite being surrounded by the best doctors in the world, they had all given up. They were waiting for one last hope.
He's not gonna make it. The fate of the entire fucking nation rests on his shoulders. And here we are, watching him go down.
The only thing we can do right now is wait for the miracle doctor.
Miracle doctor? Who's...
The conversation of the two doctors was cut short by the loud sound of the door creaking, and a young man strode in, far too youthful to be in a room filled with seasoned surgeons.
There he is. Miracle Dr. Jacob Ye.
But he looks so young.
Ignoring their conversation, Jacob quickly got to work. The room was silent except for the hum of the machines and the soft clatter of surgical instruments. Before long, the frantic beeping of the machines turned into steady rhythmic pulses. The once panicked monitors now displayed stable vitals. Everyone in the room stood in awe, witnessing what could only be described as a miracle. As Jacob exited the room, he was suddenly attacked by a group of women.
Marry me, miracle doctor.
One of the women from the crowd screamed, took off her top, revealing her large bosoms, and threw herself at Jacob in an attempt to attract him.
Easy there, girl. The man's taken by me.
Before the young woman could even touch Jacob, two strong hands pulled her away. It was one of Jacob's girlfriends, who didn't look too impressed with the girl. Jacob's other girlfriends, who were there to cheer for him, shared her emotions.
Jesus, ladies, there is no way I will get attracted to someone else when I have the country's most beautiful women as my girlfriends.
You think we'll fall for that, Dr. Charmer?
Fate, it seemed, had a twisted sense of humor when it came to Jacob's love life. But at least he loved them all. Sincerely. Before Jacob can respond, a swarm of reporters pounce, cameras flashing like angry fireflies.
Mr. Ye, they call you Dr. Miracle, and today we've seen why. Can you share with us how your journey began?
My journey? Well, it all started with water.
Water?
Wakey, wakey, beauty. Time to do your damn job.
A wave of icy water cascaded down Jacob's face, instantly replacing his dreams of fame with the harsh reality of hospital corridors. After enduring a grueling 28-hour shift, he had finally found a moment to rest. Even though his makeshift was hard to mention the corridor, it felt like heaven to close his eyes for a moment. But his blissful reprieve was shattered, thanks to this jerk.
What the fuck, Jonathan?
Jacob glared at the young doctor standing before him, holding an empty glass, clearly the culprit. This was Jonathan, the energetic emergency room doctor who always seemed to be at the center of attention. Around him, a group of young nurses giggled and exchanged amused glances, clearly enjoying the unfolding drama.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? It's time to take that old hag's urinalysis, and you're here busy sleeping?
Last time I checked, that's what the nursing staff is for.
Jacob might have been the intern at the hospital, but that was the job of a nurse. He wasn't even supposed to be in this department. All he did was get on Dr. Barrett's bad side, for the minor inconvenience of witnessing a bribe exchange, which had landed him in this delightful purgatory, fetching pee samples for the entire ER.
Oh, come on, Bambi. Don't tell me you wouldn't want to be the one to personally witness Mr. Anderson's, morning glory. Besides, wouldn't you rather save the lovely Lillian from such a delicate task?
Jacob sighed as he looked at Lillian standing in the corner. She looked upset, clearly not interested in being a part of this whole bullying. But, just like Jacob, there was not a single thing she could do. Jacob sighed and got up, still glaring at Jonathan.
What's with the hard stare, huh? Got a problem?
Jonathan was not impressed with Jacob's stare. He had been bullying the poor intern for a few days now, but he still had some fire in him and it irked Jonathan. As he got closer to Jacob, ready to put him in his place, Lillian suddenly jumped in front of him.
Doc, they need you in the emergency ward. Now.
Jonathan sneered at Jacob, before storming off. As Lillian watched him and the nurses leave, she finally breathed a sigh of relief.
You didn't have to do this for me.
You helped me deal with the old hag. So this is the least I can do.
Lillian flashed Jacob her captivating smile before diving into her work. There was no denying her beauty, and that smile momentarily took Jacob's breath away. Shaking his head, he reminded himself of his girlfriend, then hurried after Lillian. The fluorescent lights glinted off the polished floor, amplifying the ever-present hum of the hospital. It was a constant lullaby, a reminder of the never-ending battle for life waged within these walls. Here stress was a constant companion, fatigue a second skin. But for Jacob, the weight of responsibility paled in comparison to the sacrifices his single mother had made. He wouldn't let her struggles be in vain, not for a few assholes, no matter how infuriating they might be. Though deep down, Jacob wished his life could mirror the miracle doctor of his dreams. Little did he know that yearning was closer than a hospital corridor's length away. His journey to becoming a legend was about to begin, and it wouldn't be a textbook path. 5 grueling hours of drawing urine samples had left Jacob feeling like a glorified pincushion. Finally home, Jacob stumbled through the door of his shoebox-sized dorm room. Interning at the hospital was like running a marathon while juggling chainsaws, but at least he was learning something. Or so he told himself. After a lightning-fast shower and scarfing down a microwave dinner that tasted like cardboard, he pulled out his nightly reading material. It wasn't one of his med school textbooks, but an antique scroll made of thin bamboo strips bound with silk cord. Jacob hailed from a long line of traditional medicine experts. His grandfather, who was like Mr. Miyagi with herbs, had sparked his passion for medicine. Jacob's dream was to become a top doctor at a swanky hospital, but he was equally fascinated by the idea of blending his family's ancient techniques into his modern practice. His grandfather always said the scroll was passed down through generations, originating from some ancient ancestor with the wisdom of Yoda and the medical prowess of House. The knowledge recorded on it was supposedly unrivaled. Just as Jacob unrolled the scroll, his phone buzzed with a video call from an unknown number. Though hesitant initially, Jacob finally picked up the call, only to be greeted by the most horrific sight of his life on the other side. Jacob answered the video call, and his jaw hit the floor. There, on a plush bed that looked straight out of a fancy hotel, knelt a young woman barely there in clothes. Even with a mask hiding her eyes, he knew instantly it was Mia, his girlfriend. As long as Jacob could remember, Mia had always been a sweet and simple girl, and that was what had attracted him to her. Never in his wildest dreams did he imagine he would see this side of her. It was obvious, even to a fool, that Mia was having the time of her life with some man.
Mia? What the fuck?
His voice shocked Mia as she whipped off the blindfold and stared at the phone screen like a deer in headlights. Her face drained of color, and her mouth worked silently for a beat before the words finally tumbled out.
Jacob,
What's going on, Mia? Where are you even?
In response, all Jacob could hear was the unknown man's loud laughter.
Enjoying my little surprise, Mia. Just thought I'd invite your, special friend to join the party.
Jacob couldn't see the guy, but his voice sent a shiver down his spine. It sounded strangely familiar. Mia, on the other hand, who had been freaking out a second ago, just smirked at him. A cold, bitter smirk.
he's not my boyfriend. Well, not anymore.
What? What do you mean?
Jacob was dumbfounded for a moment. He had just spoken to Mia a few days before, and everything had been fine.
I am breaking up with you, Jacob.
But why?
Why? Are you kidding me? You think a broke loser like you deserves a girl like me? You're a walking disaster, Jacob. Can't even afford a decent date, let alone anything else. And on top of that, you mess up your internship and make me the laughing stock of campus. Yeah, real charmer.
It's not the end of the world, Mia. Everything will fix with time.
Nothing will fix Jacob. At this rate, you will end up as a janitor in some hospital. I'm done suffering with your poor ass. This is it. The end of us. Don't you dare call or text me.
The call ended, and Jacob sat there, phone clutched so tight his knuckles were white. He felt like the world had tilted on its axis. Growing up, he'd never had much. His mom worked her butt off at the grocery store, double shifts most of the time. He spent most of his childhood with his grandpa, who practically raised him. He'd always been honest with Mia about his background. She was supposed to be different, the one person who saw past his family's money troubles. He'd never got the feeling she cared about that stuff. Now, it seemed like it was all a lie. Hot tears poured down Jacob's face before he realized what was happening. Blindly, he slammed his fist down onto the table and shattered a teacup with a loud smash. The porcelain shard sliced into his hand, and almost instantly he was bleeding onto the table. A few measly drops of blood dripped from Jacob's finger, plonking dramatically onto the ancient scroll he had set on the table. The moment the blood touched the bamboo, a bizarre green light shot from the scroll and zapped Jacob's forehead like a laser beam.
What the hell is happening?
Jacob's thoughts were abruptly cut off as a searing pain tore through his skull. It felt like someone was trying to split his head open with a jackhammer. He doubled over in agony, so intense he nearly puked. His vision blurred and everything went black. An hour later, as he regained consciousness, Jacob first worried he'd gone blind. Everything remained stubbornly black. Then, a light materialized before him, revealing a man in flowing robes that wouldn't look out of place on a budget kung fu movie.
Greetings, young grasshopper. You have been chosen.
Chosen for what exactly? Janitor duty in the afterlife?
Jacob grumbled as he rubbed his head, wondering if his day could possibly get any worse. Now, to top it all off, he was having a bizarre dream that felt like an Asian Harry Potter knockoff.
Even better, you are now my successor.
The monk grinned as if he had just handed Jacob a winning lottery ticket.
Your successor? What kind of stupid dream is this?
This is no dream, my child. You've inherited my medical skills and magical abilities. Now listen up. With great power comes great responsibility. You know the drill. Basically, you got to use your new skills to fight the good fight. Save the world from pain, suffering, bad days, the whole shebang.
The fuck?
Before Jacob could ask exactly what the hell he was talking about, the figure shimmered and vanished like a particularly glitchy hologram. A wave of nausea washed over Jacob, followed by a torrent of information flooding his brain. Images of ancient remedies, acupuncture techniques, and even instructions for crafting magical talismans swirled around his head. It felt like his brain was being used as a cosmic download station. After what felt like an eternity, Jacob finally cracked open his eyes, feeling like he'd just spent a weekend at a particularly intense medical school rave. Hours, maybe? Time was a hazy concept right now. He sat up slowly, images of glowing herbs and floating needles flashing behind his eyelids. Taking a deep breath, he closed his eyes and focused, remembering the meditation techniques from his childhood. Slowly, the nausea subsided, and the whirlwind in his head calmed to a gentle breeze. Morning crept in unnoticed, and despite the surreal night and lack of sleep, Jacob felt oddly invigorated. The experience had been unreal, but Jacob was certain it wasn't a dream. It was extraordinary enough to overshadow the string of disappointments he had endured the day before. On his way to the hospital, Jacob was making the most of his newfound inheritance. A day passed since Jacob's encounter with the monk, and nothing changed in his life. Despite his pledge to use his newfound powers for the good, he hadn't got an opportunity to put them to use. Just like any other day, Jacob and Lillian were getting ready to leave the ER after finishing their demanding shift. Suddenly, a sleek black sports car screeched to a dramatic halt in front of the entrance. A sharply-dressed man leaped out, swiftly opening the back door. Two others carefully carried out an unconscious, bloodied man. Jacob was taken aback. His ancestral knowledge allowed him to sense life force. This man was rapidly slipping away, drained by severe blood loss.
Hey, the doctor!
A guy with a shaved head and a sleeve of tattoos ripped open the door and stormed to the ER. He had the swagger of a gangster and the worried frown of a man in deep trouble.
Help him!
The man's eyes darted around the room like a laser scanner. He landed on the receptionists, who were more interested in their latest celeb gossip than a potential medical emergency. They barely registered his arrival, let alone his panic. That's when he saw red. With a roar, he slammed his fist on the counter, sending their keyboards flying.
Are you fucking deaf? I told you to get a doctor. This man needs help right now.
Get Dr. Jonathan.
One of the nurses, practically vibrating with fear, scurried off to find Jonathan. Meanwhile, the man was getting antsy. His gaze landed on Jacob, who looked like fresh out of med school. But to this guy in a panic, even a med student looked like a doctor in shining armor. In a hurry, he grabbed the collar of Jacob's lab coat, not so gently.
You're a doctor, right? You have to help me.
Easy there, big guy. Let me check him out.
Jacob hurried towards the injured man, and thanks to his newfound powers, all it took was a quick look to confirm his worst fears. The injured man was not so far from the death door.
His legs are busted up bad. Internal organs got some serious trauma. 3 ribs cracked, 1 punctured his lung. He needs surgery, and he needs it now.
Jacob's words surprised even himself, and the people around him stared at him in shock. Just then, a voice full of disdain boomed from behind.
So our little Jacob is now a miracle doctor, huh? Did you just magically diagnose the guy without even running any tests?
I don't give a damn who his doctor is. Just save him already. If something happens to him, you'll all be in deep trouble.
Stop yelling. Who the hell is he? Some big shot?
Jonathan's loud, jerky voice didn't fly with the driver. He grabbed Jonathan by the scruff of the neck, anger simmering in his eyes.
You watch your damn mouth talking to him like that.
Jonathan's jaw clenched. He'd dealt with impatient families before, but this goon actually dared to attack him. No way was he going down without a fight. He raised a fist, ready to swing, but the driver snagged his hand midair like a fly swatter.
Should have showed some respect when I asked nicely.
True to his looks, the driver was indeed a gangster. He released his grip on Jonathan's neck, but only to unleash a right hook straight to Jonathan's kisser. The world went blurry for Jonathan as a yelp tore from his throat. He crumpled to the floor, his nose blooming red with hot blood.
Security! Get this goon out of here!
As the driver stomped on Jonathan's shin, a scream like a banshee wail filled the air. As much as Jacob was enjoying the scene, he knew this was getting out of hand. If it went any further, the patient could become collateral damage.
All right, stop. That's enough.
The driver, now seeing red, charged at Jacob. Before his fist could connect, Jacob grabbed his arm like a vice and twisted it at an unnatural angle. Everyone in the room flinched, their eyes wide with terror.
You should have listened to me when I asked nicely.
Jacob followed up with a swift kick, sending the driver flying into the receptionist's desk with a bone-jarring thud. The room erupted in a cacophony of screams and gasps. Everyone, including Jonathan, watched as the usually calm doctor unleashed a fury they never knew he possessed. It took the driver a good 5 minutes to come to his senses. Shaken and scared, he just mumbled some curses under his breath.
That's Brandon Feliciano, Gavin Feliciano's son. You have to treat him.
As soon as the words left the driver's mouth, Jonathan's eyes widened like saucers. A nervous cough escaped him. He scrambled to his feet, ignoring the throbbing in his nose, and yelled at his staff in a frantic voice.
Get him inside for triage, Stat, and call the head physician. We need him on deck now.
Gavin Feliciano's name sent shivers down everyone's spine. The owner of Tyrell Corporation, a mega conglomerate worth billions, and a major donor to the hospital. No way Jonathan could afford to slack off on his son's treatment. He glared at Jacob and Lillian.
What are you two standing around for? Get in there and help.
Jacob rushed with Lillian to assist in transferring Brandon onto a gurney and into the ER. Money talks, and with Brandon's VIP status, his diagnosis report was whipped up in 20 minutes flat. Jonathan scanned the report, his brow furrowing as he realized it was a mirror image of what Jacob had initially diagnosed. Jonathan's brow furrowed in confusion. He didn't have time to dwell on it, though. The driver was back at his side, barking questions.
What are you staring at? What's the holdup?
Look, Mr. Feliciano's injuries are serious. We need to get him into surgery ASAP.
Jonathan had called for the best surgeon in the house, but even the most skilled hands couldn't guarantee a positive outcome. But he was too scared to tell this to the gangster before him. On the flip side, Jacob seemed oddly composed and sure of himself.
Then quit yapping and get on with it.
I've got the top surgeon and head doctor on their way. They're gonna do everything possible to pull him through.
Sweat beaded on the driver's forehead despite the buzzing air conditioner. Brandon's joyride at his suggestion had taken a nasty turn, and the image of Gavin Feliciano, with a fury hotter than Hades, made him shudder in fear. Suddenly, a violent cough erupted from Brandon on the stretcher. A crimson streak trickled down his chin, staining the crisp white sheet. The heart monitor's shrill screech echoed through the room, turning everyone's faces ashen. Jonathan looked like he'd seen a ghost. He was a doctor, sure, but surgery wasn't his forte. Without the head surgeon, Dr. Connor, arriving soon, things looked grim.
He can't cough with a punctured lung like that. We gotta get him in surgery now. Waiting for Dr. Connor ain't an option.
Yeah, no kidding, intern. But newsflash, there's no one available to operate. You think you can whip up a miracle on short notice?
Jonathan gritted his teeth in anger. But before he could send Jacob away, to his astonishment, Jacob squared his shoulders and gave the stretcher a firm push towards the OR doors.
I can do it, but I need someone to scrub in with me.
Jonathan's eyes bulged like a cartoon character. Even a seasoned pro like Dr. Connor wouldn't guarantee success with a critical case like this. And here was a fresh-faced intern proposing surgery on a billionaire's son. No wonder they dumped him in the dreaded Ivy League so early. The potential consequences were a nightmare. If Brandon didn't make it, the Feliciano family would sue the hospital into oblivion. This wasn't a gamble anyone could afford.
Can you really save him?
Despite Jonathan's scowling face, the driver was really clear that someone could save Brandon. His voice was raw with desperation. It was as if he was just now truly seeing Jacob, a potential lifeline thrown in a storm.
For God's sake, Jacob, you're just an intern. Have you even held a scalpel that wasn't attached to a cafeteria spork? One wrong move, and it's all on you.
I'll take that responsibility. Waiting for Dr. Connor is a death sentence. He'll be a goner by the time the guy shows up. I, for one, would rather say I tried than watch him bleed out on this damn table. You in or out? If not, step aside.
How good are your odds of pulling him through?
50-50 better than 0.
Jacob, have you finally gone insane?